Hey guys, and welcome back to the Sonic X comparison series, where I take a look at all the changes made to Sonic X when it was broadcast internationally and licensed by 4Kids. For the uninitiated, this is a series that I have been working on for a few months now. I've made 5 videos covering the first 5 sagas. I would suggest you guys check out those videos if you can, as they provide important foundational context to some general censorship that I won't cover in this video, as these changes are all over the English dubbed version. Also, the Chaos and Project Shadow sagas are both adaptations of the 2 Sonic Adventure games, so if you're in my audience and love some Sonic Adventure, I'd suggest you check those out. Today I'm looking at the Emerl Saga, which focuses on Emerl, the robot protagonist from the Sonic Battle video game. This saga serves as its own story and uses very few elements from the game, namely the character Emerl, and that's about it. This saga spans episodes 42 to 46, 5 full episodes of 4Kids censorship. How was this saga censored? Well, put your favorite Sonic Cosplay on, because that actually happens here too, as I deep dive into how 4Kids censored Sonic X the Emerl Saga. Before noting anything, let's talk name pronunciation. I had been referring to Emerl as Emerl all my life, because those are the letters I see in the name. M-er-l, E-M-E-R-L. And that's definitely what's said in the Japanese version as well. Emerl is the pronunciation that is used in the TMS-produced version, the original Japanese version. However, the English dub decides to call Emerl ML, which never quite made sense to me.
And in this corner we have the master of computerized combat, ML!
I guess 4Kids translated its name as ML, since the Japanese language system uses L's and R's interchangeably. But for the sake of paying homage to my young self and the original Japanese version, I'll be saying Emerl. I know I said ML at the end of the Egg Moon Saga video, but if you can all forgive my ignorance, we can move along much faster. And with that out of the way, the first thing I want to talk about are some general edits that occur throughout the entire 5-episode saga. The first is that every time Emerl copies powers, the text signifying this is replaced in the dub. In the original Japanese version, whenever Emerl copies powers, it says skill get, whereas the dub says skill copy. Both are a contrast to the video game, which says skill captured, but the general idea is the same across all versions, that Emerl is mimicking the moves of its defeated foes. This isn't too drastic a change, but it should still be noted. This change occurs in just about every episode in this saga. And the second consistent change occurs during episodes 44 and 45, which happen to be a good old-fashioned shonen tournament. Whenever fighters are introduced, the Japanese version displays text that states which competitors are going to be fighting. This text is removed from the dub, with nothing replacing it. Therefore, the only way to know who is competing is by actually watching the show. It's tragic, I know, but we already knew that 4Kids would go out of its way to remove any text that makes the show easier to understand. We knew that in the Project Shadow saga, and we know it in here too. And with that, let's get looking at the first episode of the saga. Episode 42 has been retitled from Amy's Love Escape to A Date to Forget. The first change happens when Amy holds Chris hostage before trying to KO him, and it's a two-phase change here too. First is that footage is changed to avoid showing Amy holding Chris hostage in these 2 shots. This is done by extending this close-up of Chris talking, which is followed by the dub cutting out a 7-second scene of Amy letting Chris go, and him reacting to the pain of having his neck held hostage. Considering Chris is just a wee little lad at this point in the narrative, it makes sense that 4Kids would remove this potentially controversial scene, as it can be interpreted as violence against a child. A similar change happens when Sam comes to pick up Amy to look for Sonic. The dub reuses this close-up of Sam talking, instead of using the shot that the original Japanese version used, being of a slow pan to his car. The scene still lasts the same length of time, so I'm not entirely sure why 4Kids did this. Next up is that once they actually go on their drive, Amy and Sam walk into a store with a lot of English text all over the place. Bafflingly, the only text removed is the menswear overcoat text on the posters in the background. It's even misspelled. It might be because menswear is a legit brand in some countries, but it has me wondering why they didn't remove the other text too, when that's 4Kids' usual motive. It could have also been removed because of the misspelling. The next scene removed is one of the longest in the series so far, maybe even second to the Team Chaotix scene that was removed in the previous arc. The dub cuts out a 75-second scene of Amy and Sam hanging out and going on a drive. It's a long scene of Amy eating candy that she bought from the general store in the previous scene. Then they have a conversation about their interests and who they are. Funny enough, when the scene does align in both versions, the dub then uses a shot of the car driving away that was removed from the 75-second shot. Talk about baffling. I can understand removing scenes for time constraint reasons, but this is a 75-second long scene. It's very exposition heavy and builds character, but we all know 4Kids doesn't really like stuff like that. And the last change of the episode is that 4Kids removes an insert song, Sonic Drive, during the scene where Amy hammers away one of Eggman's robots. Episode 43 has been retitled from Huge Home Electronics Panic to Mean Machines. The first change is that the scene with the Sonic cosplayers is removed. This is nightmare fuel, but it's also kind of lewd, and it's something that makes me want to rip off my eyeballs. I have very conflicting feelings about this. It's a 3-second long cut, and it's pretty ridiculous that it exists in the first place. And in the same scene, this old lady yelling at the audience because no one wants to do anything anymore due to the fascination with Sonic the Hedgehog is removed. It's also a 3-second long cut. The next scene removal happens while Dr. Eggman builds appliances in jail. First, this 4-second long scene is removed of Eggman fixing the TV. Then shortly afterwards, this 8-second long scene of Eggman fixing random junk is removed. And the scene's final change happens when Eggman's showing the audience the newspaper of Sonic's exploits. Shortly after this scene, a 13-second cut of Tails explaining to Amy what Emerl is and what it can do is removed from the dub. When Chris's mom and dad come to the Thorndike home to spend some time with their son, Chris's mom kisses him about 3 times. The first time is left alone in the dub, but the second and third time are removed. This looks like she's kissing Chris in the mouth, and I'm honestly surprised the first kiss was even left alone. But 4Kids works in mysterious ways, folks. I'm pretty sure this is just due to the angle, and that she's actually kissing Chris on the cheek here, however. When the vacuum cleaner that Eggman rebuilds starts causing havoc around the house, 2 shots are removed. First, this extreme close-up of a toaster with a Van Sant branding, a 2-second cut, and then another shot of the vacuum cleaner going room to room. That second shot removes 6 more seconds from the scene. In this shot, the text milk is removed from the milk carton, and Aaron is removed from the doggy bag. This shot is actually recycled and shown a second time, and both times it has the text removed. And the last major set of changes is a host of text removal, when the appliances go full Skynet. First, see the and the open text of this shot is removed. Then the gibberish text on this sign front is removed, followed by Water Bureau in this shot, see through and open in this shot, then see the again, then Studio C in this blink and you'll miss it shot, then coffee behind Sonic and Knuckles in this shot, then the XO in this shot, then Water Bureau again, then coffee behind Sonic and Knuckles again, which happens twice, almost back to back, then the barely legible coffee storefront again in this shot, and then finally coffee and tea in this shot. Did you get all that? That's a lot of text removal. This is what Sonic X is, folks. Whether it be 4Kids or TMS themselves, which is a video I'll be doing in the future, there's always got to be some sort of text removal. Episode 44 has been retitled from the ridiculous epic spy battle to sewer search. The first change is that the recap of the Japanese version has been shortened in the dub. The Japanese recap is a whopping 2 minutes and 28 seconds, while the dub's recap is about 39 seconds. Either way you cut it, this is the longest recap in either version of the show, which to me denotes that they probably had a smaller budget for this episode than any other behind it. And next up, we got a visual edit layered with an inconsistency. First of all, the elementary school text is changed for the first time in the dub. Every other time it was left alone, but now it's a problem? Okay, whatever. But in the scene immediately after, the text is left alone in this extreme wide shot. Why do you have to do this to me? It kills me that I could notice it, but a former giant corporation like 4Kids did not. I grant this the immediate inconsistency stamp. When the kids and Mr. Stewart are spying on a newly free Eggman, the text second-hand bookstore is removed from the storefront where Eggman buys his books. And as the kids spy on Eggman via binoculars, the text Dr. Atsumi is also removed from the books that Eggman is carrying, followed immediately with the removal of the second-hand bookstore text again. The gibberish text on this sign is removed again. The series has reused this background scenery a few times at this point, and every time except for in a recap, which I called an inconsistency, the text has been removed in the dub. If you look closely in this scene, the text on the menu behind Rouge has been altered just a bit in the dub. Then the text OW in this shot behind Sonic has also been removed. In the sewers, the text on Eggman's book, Dr. Atsumi, is removed again. Here we have a long visual edit on Mr. Stewart's laptop. First, the caution text and the squiggles are removed and replaced with the international symbol for caution. Then the text password detection program is removed from his laptop, as well as the text on the button. Then the input a password text is removed from the screen in this shot. And finally, the flashback border is added to Mr. Stewart's hypothetical worst case scenario. And the last change is a recycled shot of Rouge and Topaz eating, and having the menu text in the background of the shot changed once again. Only this time there's an extreme close-up of Topaz, which shows the text in all its altered glory. If you notice, the original text says menu, espresso, cafe, and cappuccino, all of which are replaced with squiggles in the dub. Episode 45 has been retitled from Sonic Battle Face-Off to Prize Fights. The first change is that the dub rearranges the opening scenes of the episode. Nothing is really removed in the first few minutes, but for whatever reason, 4Kids decided to move things around. I never quite understood why they do this, but here it is. When the president announces the Tenkaichi Budokai of the Sonic world, lots of Japanese and English text is removed in the dub. From flyers, sides of vehicles, even the trash can on this shot, and the programs on the pole and the storefront in the background. Then the flyers of the cast flying around loses their text, as does the president's telethon. In the dub, the president makes this great impersonation of former Vermont Governor Howard Dean. Stuff like this makes me laugh. But anyway, then Japanese text and numbers are removed from the telethon screen in the background, and in its numerous recycled shots. The lineup of the tournament has all the names removed, which are all in Japanese. However, the English text, champion, and final are also removed here. To which I say, then how will people know who actually won? Inside the newscaster control panel room, the text CM is replaced with the color testing signal screen that sometimes plays at 3 AM in the real world. This is followed by the recycled, edited shots of the telethon background having its text removed. So y'all probably gave me shit, but remember when I said the president announced a Tenkaichi Budokai? Well, that text is removed from the dub in every shot that shows the front of the menu. Just kidding, it says martial arts tournament in pretty plain English too. Even the banner is removed, however. A close-up of the tournament lineup is shown here, and it has the same removal of all text that it did earlier. I ask again, how will anyone know who is the winner, let alone who is even competing? The dub also removes the 2-second close-up of some names. I can read a bit of katakana. From right to left it says Big, Ella, Emerl, Tanaka, and Topaz. You're all welcome for that one. Next up, we got a few instances of what I mentioned in the intro, where text is removed from every fighter introduction. This happens a few instances. A pretty interesting scene removal is Ella fighting Big the Cat. It's a 33-second long scene that's removed, of Ella chasing Big with a frying pan, before Froggy attacks Ella, and then she's knocked out, causing Big to be disqualified, and Ella becoming the winner by default. Big's removal plays into my theory of 4Kids removing as many scenes of him as they can, as this happens all over the dub, and here it's no different. Tails' fight with Hawk loses its introduction text, but also after the fight, the dub replaces the shot of Tails' all-female fanbase, including this woman with very voluptuous features, with a crowd reaction from later in the episode. I like the Japanese versions better. The dub's cut still falls short, however, and aside from the scene swap, the scene still loses about 2 seconds of footage in length. Now here's a change that can only really make sense in the USA. In our kids show, you can't really market a real-world product. It's why the Yu-Gi-Oh cards in Yu-Gi-Oh had to be edited to look hideous instead of any real attempt to replicate their real-world counterparts. There's obviously loopholes to this, and I'll leave an article in the description describing in great detail why this is a thing. Well, in this scene, the lunch stand not only loses text and its sign at the top, but look at the balloons to the left. They're all Sonic and Sega characters. Hell, under Sonic is something that looks just like Alex Kidd. And on top of Sonic is a Tails balloon that looks like the 90s Western Sonic cartoons Tails, where he's actually brown instead of yellow gold. I suspect that these balloons were changed to generic balloons due to FCC regulations, as the characters in the Sonic series may have resembled Sonic characters a bit too much. That's ludicrous, I know, but stranger things have happened in the dubbing of this series, as we have all observed so far. Funny enough, in the scene right after, the lunch text is removed from both lunch stands that Eggman hovers over, but if you look very close, the balloons are sort of left alone here. It's far away enough that even I struggle to see it, but these balloons look more like Sonic characters than generic balloons. With this is even more inconsistent bureaucracy, you gotta love it. When Sonic and Chris have their heart-to-heart, the Japanese text in the background of the changing room is removed. This happens 4 times in 4 different shots. And the last major change is the removal of the Japanese text and the censoring and visual changes done to the number 2 in this banner here. The episode has more changes, namely text removed from matchups, but nothing that I didn't already mention in my introduction. Episode 46 has been retitled from Sonic Battle Finale to A Wild Wind. The first change is that the recaps contain different footage. Both are roughly 30 seconds, however. Then, during Knuckles and Chris's fight, the dub completely changes the battle lineup screen. It's a pretty bizarre visual change that obviously looks like it was made in an image editor. Notice how E77, which is Lucky the Robot, doesn't even contain a picture of it, instead inverting the image of Mr. Stewart that is on the left. That's pretty lazy editing, and it makes no sense to me. The dub then removes some more text on screen that introduces fighters and winners. In this overhead shot, 4 seconds of the beginning of the shot are removed in the dub, before the dub shows the rest as is. When Emerl scans Amy, the text "crack" on its scouter is removed. This is the first instance of text being removed when Emerl scans anyone, as the text has largely been left alone beforehand, aside from the general edit of skill get to skill copy. And finally, the last couple of changes are all after the tournament and centered around Cream and Emerald's dynamic. The first change is that a border is added to the flashback in the dub, followed by the dub using different footage in the flashback. The dub then cuts out some pretty lengthy scenes of the flashbacks, one of which is about 23 seconds long, and another that's about 12 seconds long. The dub keeps the scene of Cream kicking Emerald, before losing its second shot and keeping the shot of Emerald falling into the ocean, although it loses about a second of the impact before Emerald actually falls in. Then, when Emerald begins to cry, the oil coming out of its eyes is replaced with water in the dub. At least it looks like water. It's some sort of clear liquid. It could be car coolant, I don't really know, but it's been recolored. Then, this second-long pan leading up to Cream and Cheese crying is removed, followed immediately by a nearly 3-second-long cut of Emerald exploding in the ocean and Cream and Cheese's reaction to that. Then, it cuts out their reaction, transitioning into full crying, an 8-second-long scene removal, and the last change of the episode and the scene is a shortening of the rainbow that Cream and Cheese cry to. It's another roughly 8-second-long cut. And that covers the Emerl Saga. At 5 episodes, we can see that 4Kids does their usual shenanigans, outside of what TMS actually did for the series. There's a lot of text removal, but there's also the usual trimming down of scenes and some important or funny scenes that are removed with little to no explanation. For me, that 75-second scene removal of Amy and Sam having a slice of life episode is completely pointless. But I also acknowledge that it's not the most stimulating content out there, so I can at the very least see why it was removed. I just happen to disagree with it. Aside from that, it's a bit lame that 4Kids removed a lot of Cream's dynamic with Emerald, especially in the flashbacks. It has the potential for a moving scene, and the shortening of it kills any tension or sympathy. But this is what 4Kids does. We all know that. Nothing ever dies, and emotionally complex scenes have to be subdued so that children don't feel complex emotions. Either way, tune in next week as I cover the Homebound Saga, the last saga I'll be covering for a while before coming back to do the Metarex Saga in the future. The Homebound Saga covers episodes 47 to 52. As usual guys, thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe to let me know what you guys think, and whether you want more Sonic X comparisons or not. Let me know your thoughts, favorite censor, whatever, as I'd be interested in hearing it. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. Thank you guys again, and as always, have a good one.